Noon hour is here.
Check it out.
And you're locked on to Utah's highest rated, most listened to sports radio station.
It's my station. It's my station.
This is Hans Olsen and Scotty G on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Hans Olsen, Scott Gerard, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Happy Thursday, folks. Let's get it. How you doing, my guy?
I'm doing fantastic. You know that.
Yeah.
I live that amazing life.
You and I need to have a chat during the break. I think you got some stuff to talk about.
Couple chats. I wake up next to the woman that I love the most in this world, and that starts my day out with a big smile and joy in my heart. 27 years of doing that now. Well, it'll be 27 in February, but 26 currently.
I like how you count ahead, though.
Well, you know.
Always count ahead, a year ahead.
Hey, it's going to be 27 for me in August.
Every day is a blessing. Jeez, that's coming fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, you and I are really close to.
You guys are only just a couple years behind me.
Yeah.
Well, if you talk about time spent, yeah.
Yeah. If you would have married her when you met her, like Scotty and I did, instead of squatting for 17 years, then you'd be.
It's not squatting. It wasn't squatting.
It's essentially squatting.
Yeah.
You were common law married for at least 18 years.
Well, we're going to have to agree to disagree on this whole thing, I guess.
The best part was Lloyd was having his first child, and I said, Lloyd, when are you going to pop the question? Because Jessica's amazing.
Yes.
And he said, we're just in the get-to-know-you
We're
stage.
still trying to figure each other out. You're bringing a human being into this world, but, you know, you never know.
Not a bad way to go about it. The two of yous get to know him.
But I was down in Provo all morning, got down there at about 7:30 this morning, and spent all morning down in Provo and spent a lot of time with Coach Sitake. And a big thank you to Coach for being so generous with his time. And he went a little bit different with his sound for the players this year.
Really?
About a minute apiece.
Wow.
Yeah.
And, you know, because it was part of the big production we had with our ranking, this year I'm not editing it. Like, I had to edit a lot. And this year I'm just like, nah.
Yeah, let's just
play it.
Roll it out.
Yeah.
And he is in a really good spot, Scotty. Kalani's in a good spot. He's the most calm and confident that I've seen him in a lot of years. And Kalani and I have known each other since we were 18 or 19. So we've been around each other for a lot of years. And he's in a really good spot. Now, he's working harder than he's ever worked. And I said the same thing about Coach Whittingham when I came out of that meeting on Tuesday. Coach Whittingham said Junes are different than they've ever been. And Kalani said the same. Kalani had a few different camps that he was supposed to be at. Kalani wrapped up his day at about 11:30 p.m. yesterday.
Jeez. And,
you know, there's recruits and there's all kinds of things that are going on through the next few weeks. And I'm looking, I can tell he's exhausted. I can tell he's really tired. But I can also see that there is a confidence and a calmness. And it was fun to just sit down and pick his brain and talk about the transfers that are coming in and talk about the returning talent. We had a blast. We were sitting there. We hadn't had an opportunity to sit down one-on-one and dive into that beatdown of Deion Sanders and that Colorado team in front of 8.5 million people. And it was really fun to hear his perspective on that. And it's funny because Kalani just will not take credit. And I'm like, Kalani, what an amazing – he's like, yeah, well –
Jay did this
and this and this.
This.
And I'm like, Kalani, come on. Who hired him? Kalani, who did this? Who did that? He's like, well, yeah, but, you know, a blind squirrel and a nut and lucky.
Stop
and
it.
I'm like, Coach, honestly, just for 5 seconds, can we just talk? Like,
guess what? I took Prime behind the whooping shed and let him have it.
And you did a lot of really good things in that whole thing. It's just fun to sit down with him and see his growth over the years. And he and I have been through a lot together, and he's been a lot through BYU and as a head coach. And we talked about kind of his start into coaching, and that dude, he grounded out for 15 years.
Yeah, you talk about, and this is why I will always, I'll never get after a coach for taking a job at another school if it means more money. Look, I have seen so many coaches come and go at Utah State, and I don't have an ill feeling towards any of them. Yeah. Because, and I learned this from Craig Smith. Craig told me about some of the stuff that he had to do in recruiting JUCOs and driving in a Geo Metro across the country and hoping that he had enough money in his bank account for gas to be able to go and try and recruit a kid in Sioux Falls, and just all the travel and just calling your wife and hoping that the kids are okay. Like, they've earned every bit of that. Yep. And Kalani was one of those guys where I think he told the story about how he was working part-time at Walmart to help pay for his ability, to help pay for the bills because he was making nothing coaching at Southern Utah.
He was stocking shelves.
Yeah, stocking shelves.
Yeah. Hitting price tags and stocking shelves. And now look at him. We didn't get into the details of any extensions or anything, but we saw BYU extend some gratitude after a 11-win season and a big win in a bowl game, and it was nice because Kalani had some good leverage. And my guess is, typical Kalani style, probably worked more towards getting assistants taken care of than himself.
Yeah.
And I would imagine, because if you look at the Whittingham model, Whittingham has been able to retain coaches. The way he retains coaches is when he has the leverage, he'll ask for more for assistant pools. He'll ask for extended years for assistants. He goes to bat for his assistants, so they stay longer. And there was a really nice run where Utah gets into the Pac-12 and they get a nice backload of money, and then they were able to get really competitive with assistant salary and get competitive with assistant years, and he's been able to keep a guy like Morgan Scalley for years, and Sharice Shaw for years, and Colton Swan for years, even though these guys would be headhunted across the country.
Yeah.
You think about how many chances Morgan Scalley had to leave. There were plenty. And guys didn't leave unless it was a nice step up. And I bumped into Justin Enna down in Provo. And, you look at Enna, came off that Whittingham staff to take the defensive coordinating job at Utah State. And then Enna goes and does a couple of things in the intermediate, and then he ends up coming back to Provo, and now he's one of Kalani's right-hand men. Because Justin went through the battles that Kalani and I went through, and Justin's been through the BYU battles. He understands the honor code. He understands in-state recruiting. Kalani and Justin have been through so many battles. And so if you look at what Kyle Whittingham has done in hiring, he looks for guys that have been through similar battles and guys that'll get his back. And that's Justin Enna, and that's Gennaro Guilford, and that's now Kalani's staff. And so there's a lot of similarities. But then Kalani's got his own twist and style, and it's fun to watch his unique style. Kalani allows a lot more autonomy from everybody. Kyle is still so engaged in his 21st season as a head coach. He's still very engaged in every aspect, which is great because he's had a lot of success that way. Kalani is very engaged, and when you hear him talk about every one of his players, you're like, geez, man, Lavelle loved us. Lavelle couldn't have talked for a minute and a half on me. I don't think.
In a positive outlook.
In a positive. Hans Olsen, bad grades, academic probation. He's up at the honor code office right now.
Now that Lance guy, I like him.
He was late for practice again yesterday. He's missed 3 workouts this week. So Hans Olsen. It's like, Coach, can we get
maybe some positive things?
Balances a table on his chin.
Yeah.
What else you want?
Lifts a lot of weights.
He's a wrestler. Well, I think he wrestled. What else you want?
Let me talk about his uncles, because they were great.
So Merlin Olsen. Merlin Olsen. I was assistant coach. By the way, Lavelle was an assistant with Merlin.
Oh, yeah.
Back many, many years ago at Utah State. But it's so fun to watch these coaches in their growth and development years and years. And I didn't talk to Kalani about this, but, one really overlooked aspect of what Kalani has done at BYU, he is a much more of a mover and shaker than anybody would give him credit for. You get a position group that stalls out for a minute, and you get a TJ Woods.
Yeah.
You get a coordinating job that stalls out for a minute, and you get Aaron Roderick put in place for play calling duty in the middle of a season, which we didn't know about until we heard about it through the grapevine, and then we addressed some things and finally got to the base of it. And Kalani made that decision. Kalani made that decision of a play caller change and a coordinating change. Kalani had his best friends, some of his best friends and long cohorts running defensive coordinator and assistant head coach. He had to fire him.
Yeah. I mean, you go back and look at, everybody looks at Kalani as everybody's the fun uncle, right?
Yeah.
When you go to
so loving.
When you go to a family reunion, there's always the fun uncle that you want to hang out with, that he's up to speed on pop culture, and he'll joke around and have a good time with. That's Kalani. But here's what the fun uncle has had to do. After, year one or year two on the job, he fired a Heisman Trophy winner who was a offensive coordinator and told Ty Detmer, sorry, it ain't working. And then a couple of years after that, what did he have to do? Fire his best friend, one of his best friends, who was a defensive coordinator, and
Elisa Tuiaki.
And E. Tuiaki, and a guy that he had used as a mentor as a head coach in Ed Lamb.
Yeah, that ushered him into the head coaching job.
And he had to let both of them go, as well as other great friends.
And look how that worked out.
And it was the right thing to do. As much as it was hard to do, as much as it may have, and I don't know this, but I can't imagine it probably didn't damage long-term relationships, you were better for it in terms of building your team and making it better.
Kalani has made some big boy, pull your pants up decisions. And and he's managed it really well. And, I think the sign of a great leader, this is my belief, and this is something I saw in you when you were a program director. You will hire the people that are the best for the job, regardless of how that might affect you. You'll hire the guys that are best for the job. And there might be a time where you hire an on-air guy, might be a better on-air guy. But I'm going to risk it. Well, that's made you one of the top on-air guys in the state. It made you one of the best program directors this state's ever known. It's given you an opportunity to be the voice of the Aggies because you hired above you if you could.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's what Kalani's done. You go hire Jay Hill. You go bring in Gary Anderson. You go bring in Chad Kawaha. These guys are all USC head coaches Wisconsin, head coach of Oregon State. And you're doing this when you brought in Jay Hill as a D coordinator, and you go to Jay and you're like, do you have a problem with this? And Jay's like, no, hire above me. Let's get the best minds in a room. And look what it did, man. That dismantling of Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter, that defensive dismantling was a masterpiece. 12 different defenses called in the first 13 plays run.
Yeah.
Shedeur didn't know what was up and what was down. He didn't know what was press or what was back off. He didn't know if it was double coverage. He didn't know what the nickel was doing. He didn't know the alignment of Tyler Batty. Tyler Batty went from a 7 technique all the way into a 3 technique to a head up off a nose, and Shedeur couldn't make hide or tell of it. He collapsed.
And by the way, there's video of Shedeur on the sidelines saying, I don't know what they're doing.
Right. And you know what that comes from? That's Kalani Sitake saying, I don't care. Look, yeah, I'll be the face and image of this thing. But I'll be the face and image until we lose. Give me the best minds. And one of the most dramatic jumps that I've seen from 2023 to 2024 was gap and run protections. 2023, BYU was 86th in the country in rushing defense. 2024, they jumped all the way up to like 15th or 18th in the country in rushing defense. You know what that is? That's Gary Anderson. That's Chad Kauha working with Kelly Popinga, working with Sione Pua, and them all coming together as a collective mind saying what's best for us.
And Jay Hill.
And Jay Hill saying what's best for us.
Yeah. Because
we can't run our ram and lion techniques and have our freaking defensive linemen running off the sidelines. Like, let's figure out how we stall out gaps, and they did it. And so it gives you a lot of optimism. But and Kalani does everything he can to try to avoid it, which then drives me to be a little more staunch about it. Let's not forget who's making those hires. It's Kalani. Kalani's making those decisions. And that's a hell of a defensive staff. And this defense stands to be exceptional this year.
Well, and, we don't know what the situation looks like with Jake Retzloff, and that's yet to be determined. And, I'm sure that we'll find out eventually what that's going to look like. But you could be looking at a situation where you need that defense to be special, at least in the early part of the years, while the offense has to perhaps, and I'm not saying this is the case, but they may have to figure out what they're doing with a young quarterback, whether it be Bachmeier or whether it be Hillstead. These are guys that don't have much experience in the Big 12 level, and it'll be interesting to see how they handle that. If that indeed is what you have to. I mean, you may have to go to Jay Hill and Gary Anderson and that crew and be like, hey, guys, we're putting a lot of pressure on you because it's going to take a minute for these guys to get going.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. But if you got that defense that you can hang your hat on, by the way, the defensive line is going to be interesting because you get Keanu Tanavasa out of the University of Utah, who
I keep forgetting about that.
If he stays healthy, he is
total game changer.
And then one thing Kalani reminded me of when I was halfway through my names, he's like, "Where's Kirkland out of Oklahoma State?" And I was like, "Oh crap!" And he's like, "Well, let's do that now because he's gonna be a beast." And because I completely forgot about him.
This is why we're not doing the countdown, folks.
Yeah, exactly. This is the transfer portal has thrown us into a whole tailspin with the top 60. We don't rank the 60 anymore. We're just doing it's Scott Gerard's 60 watch list.
I think you need to put your name on there because I'm not sitting on this island all by myself.
It's the Scotty G 60 watch list, but
it's now time for Watching the Watch List with Hans Olsen and Scott Gerard.
Scotty wanted to turn it into a watch list, so we did, which I told
Scotty
Kalani.
asks, he receives.
I told Kalani. Kalani's like, makes sense. It's like, we can't rank them anymore. I said, we may have missed on a piece or two.
Just,
You should have seen his grin when I said that. He knew. He knew.
Well,
he's like, yeah, so how did
that work out for you last year?
How did Caleb show up? Where did that go? I was like, I don't want to talk about it. We missed a couple names.
This Glasker kid, you had him pretty highly ranked last year,
Where
right?
did he check in?
Yeah.
But, I think Kalani feels very confident about his defense, and he should. And you bring up a really good point. The quarterback situation certainly feels in flux. And I would feel pretty good about my quarterback situation if I had this defense and if I had this defensive staff. And a couple of pieces that he's brought in, a couple portal pieces that he's brought in, and then prospects like Siale Acera.
Yeah.
Who Harrison Taggart left, probably looking at it like, because Siale is going to be a beast. So there's a lot of good things going defensively. And there's a lot of great things going offensively, too. He gushed about Chase Roberts, and he gushed about L.J. Martin, and there are staple offensive pieces that are going to be incredible components. But I thought Kalani did a great job with his sound. I'm excited for you to kind of hear it because, in the 8 years we've been doing this with him as a head coach, he was the most animated and went on and gushed about his players.
Love it.
He was like, oh, okay, I get an opportunity to spill about these players. I showed him the write-ups,
yeah.
How KSL is doing the write-ups. And I was like, yeah, every one of your players will be highlighted. So he's excited about that. But the state is in good hands with Kyle Whittingham, Bronco Mendenhall, Kalani Sitake. I don't think we've ever seen a better mix of head coaches in this state.
Yeah, well, in terms of tradition and on the field resume, I mean, this is about as good as it's been.
It was awesome too for Kalani to stop and say, "Bronco's going to be really good." And I said, "What's that?" I said, "Say that a little bit louder." He said, "Bronco's going to be really good." And I said, "Yeah, he absolutely is." Kalani knows it. Kalani knows Bronco's a mastermind.
Well, and
he's going to squeeze the most juice out of everything that he gets in Logan.
Well, and this is something that we'll talk about throughout the summer leading up to the start of camp, is that BYU had to get down to 105, and they were preemptive in it. And very quietly, do you see who benefited a lot from that is Utah State.
Yeah.
There are a lot of former Cougars that, frankly, if there was no 105 rule, probably are still at BYU.
Yes. Yeah, you're 100% right.
But yeah, Bronco is saying, hey, come on up. I got you. And now there's going to be opportunities for these guys. And so BYU has been able to, not something the BYU wanted to do, but BYU is inadvertently in this 105 rule has allowed BYU in a way to help Utah State in building that roster. Part of their 87 new guys they have on that team.
And Kalani knows it. And
Yeah.
he was like, well, yeah, Bronco's going to be good. Because he knows.
Yeah.
He knows, some of the tough decisions he's had to make and that staff has had to make. There's some tough personnel decisions, buddy. And Scotty, you've seen it behind the scenes. Some really hard things are going on with these coaches.
Yeah, it's a tough world they're living in.
Because, we're talking about kids that are like family, and, we blow it off like, oh, they're just having to do what they have to do. No, it's not. It's just not that easy. As a boss, it's tough. Sometimes you make decisions. In fact, when there was a restructure, when I came over to do the show with you, I caught you in some pretty rough moments because there was people that were like family to you.
Oh, yeah.
It was really tough. Not to peel any Band-Aids out, but it was tough. And these coaches have deep emotions, and they've got big connections. And it's just crazy how long Kyle and now Kalani have been around and how much they've had to deal with, but how much they're having to adjust now. I did ask him about the House and the NCAA situation, and he's like, in fact, I did an interview with him, a little 5-minute interview, and I asked him about House and NCAA ruling, and I thought his take was interesting. And maybe we'll play that a little bit later in the show.
Love it. Hans and Scotty, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
U.S. Open Update is brought to you by Mountain Land Supply, Zions Bank, Black Desert Resort, Hoops Vision, and Siegfried and Jensen. And now, Real Golf Radio's Brian Taylor.
Time to chat with the man himself, Brian Taylor, Real Golf Radio, right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. BT, how are you?
What's up, boys? How are you?
We're doing all right.
Doing great, brother.
Everything good in
man.
your world?
Yeah, did you hear us talking about you on the show a couple weeks ago that we wanted to get together and have a barbecue with you guys?
Yeah. Let's do it.
We got talking, Bob and I got talking barbecue somehow on the golf show, and we thought, you know what, if we're going to do barbecue, we got to have Scotty and Hans. I don't know, a barbecue wouldn't be the same without you.
Oh,
there we go.
I think we may have probably ruined that because Scotty and I went pretty hard at Bob yesterday, and we called it the Bob Revenge Tour, BT, because
what did he do?
Well, first of all, he beat Scotty in a rib competition many years ago. And then Scotty, Lloyd, and I teamed up for a best ball against Bob, and Bob beat us by 4 strokes on a best ball.
I don't even want to admit this.
And so Bob holds a lot over our heads, and we said it's Redemption Tour 2025. So we're coming at Bob on ribs, and the 3 of us are going to try to team up and see if we can take him down again.
Wow. The 3 of you are going to out-eat Bob with ribs? Like, you think Bob's going to out-eat all
No,
three
we're
of you?
talking
Is that the
we're
bet?
talking cooking ribs.
Yeah, cooking ribs.
Cooking ribs.
Yeah, not eating ribs.
Right. Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, can I get in on the judging of that?
We don't have judges currently.
Oh, okay. All right.
You're like,
well, consider this a volunteer.
I don't think this would work.
You've been with Bob longer than maybe even your wife, Brian. I can't have you as a judge. That's not a.
That is not accurate. However, we have spent a lot of time over the last 25 years together. So.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like that's like me saying if I can have Hans as a judge, and I guess Bob can have you as a judge.
I don't know. Both of you guys are Idaho brothers. I mean, there's some blood there, right? I mean, there's some things. So, yeah I don't know.
Well, I guess we'll find out how deep your Idaho roots run.
Yeah, exactly. How's your Cassia County roots treating you these days? Hey, so Bob came on yesterday and said it was going to be a bloodbath and that we were going to see people in the red all over. But there's a few guys under par. And they may not be household names, but you surprised by some of these scores?
Well, we got here early this morning, and both of us, by the way, have fallen asleep for about 20 minutes sitting in our chair since that. But we got on the 6 o'clock shuttle, got over here, and went out with the first group. Watched Zach Blair for a little bit, watched Rory for a little bit, and it was as perfect of conditions as you could ever ask for, and probably unrealistic for what you would expect Oakmont to produce for a U.S. Open first round. And the only reason I say that is because, this has been the wettest May in history on record here in Pittsburgh. And it just, as the USGA said, Mother Nature has a seat at the table on how all this shakes out. And she has a say, and she dropped a lot of rain. And so, you get a golf course that's soft. There was no wind this morning. And, you just figured somebody was going to take it down. But look, this is the 10th U.S. Open here at Oakmont. J.J. Spawn was just the 8th bogey-free round in all of those rounds. So you think about 156 players over 9, now we're going on 10, and there's just been 8 bogey-free rounds. So that's pretty impressive what he did. And still, with all of that, I thought there might be a 65 even this morning, and the best they did was a 66. So, yeah, there's some under par scores, but I think at last count there were 8 guys that shot over 80 this morning as well. So it's still tough.
You bring up J.J. Spawn. Tell us who this guy is that's currently 4 under and leading the U.S. Open. Yeah,
I mean, JJ is he's from L.A., and he played at Black Desert this last fall. Didn't have a great year last year, but is having a pretty good year this year. So, he just kind of went about his business. When you look at how he played, he's hitting fairways just like we talked about. His putting was on. He gained nearly 4 strokes with the putter, leads the field there. Greens in regulation, he was tied for 13th, 12 of 18. But, there were a lot of guys that hit 12 of 18. I think Zach Blair hit 12 of 18 greens and shot 4 over par. So, there's a lot more that goes into it than just the fairways and greens. He had the putter going. And as the guys were saying, Brad Faxon said on the broadcast, you have to have a lot that goes right in your round to be able to go bogey-free around this place. So, JJ, this is just his second U.S. Open. He missed the cut at Torrey Pines back in 2021. I don't know that he's on anybody's radar. He just got off to a really good start, and we'll see how he hangs on.
So I guess when you play in this tournament, it's about getting that early score and then kind of just holding on, right?
Well, that's the way I was thinking, because I don't see it getting any easier. It's definitely going to get firmer. There is a chance of some rain this weekend, which could soften it back up again. But, the USGA says they've got like 6 levers out here that they can kind of pull to be able to increase the challenge. And, so one of them obviously is pin locations. Certainly the firmness of the greens, and it's going to continue. It's going to be 88 out there today. It's actually quite warm this afternoon, and there's just a little bit of a breeze. So, like I said, tomorrow is probably going to be the toughest day if we get rain on Saturday. But that's what I'm thinking. With today, as I want to use this with all due respect, as easy as it's playing today, it feels like a day you want to try to hover at least around par, or you're going to be, I think, just you're going to be chasing.
The hell's happened to Shane Lowry? What's wrong with him?
Man, he holed out for eagle, and then he had about everything else going sideways on him. He was chucked a microphone. He's just not sharp today. He's a guy that he led through 54 holes here in 2016 and had a bad Sunday, and he's been in pretty good form this year. So he was definitely a guy that I was watching for, and I thought would be a pretty popular, player that the fans would be rooting for around here, and he just didn't quite have it go his way. Played with Rory, played with Justin Rose. I mean, you couldn't ask for a more friendly pairing, and really none of those guys could get it going today.
So what's the thought on Rory? Is he gets that big milestone, that career milestone, and is it just a matter of like you get to a point in your career where you're like, I don't know what else I need to accomplish here? I mean, is he kind of at a crossroads where, like, I don't know if I really care about this anymore? I think maybe care is not the right word, but you know what I'm getting at.
I know exactly what you're getting at, and it's been very very much a head scratcher for me. I came out of the Masters and I was like, wow, that was one of the most inspiring things that I've ever seen. The fact that so many people hung on to his every emotion on that entire Sunday and seem to almost like live the drama, the emotions with him as it was roller coastered up and down. And then he lets it all out down on his hands and knees, just sobbing and looking up to the sky, all the stuff that went around. Like, the drama was incredible. And it just thought, and he talked about this huge weight that's lifted off and all the things. And you just thought, man, he's going to shed that millstone that's been around his neck, and he's just going to go flying through the PGA Tour the rest of this year. That was probably on us, speaking of me, and I think most people's expectation that he was going to go on this, run. And Rory actually just exhaled and wanted to kick back and put his feet up. And again, I don't necessarily fault him for that. I don't think that's necessarily a negative. It was a surprise, I guess. I just thought, man, it had been so long since he'd won a major, 10 years. He finally gets one, and it happens to be the actual one that he needs to complete the career Grand Slam. This should just be something he's so excited about. And it turns out it was like almost so exhausting in a way that he's just almost checked out, which is unbelievable to me. So, like I said, the things he said are not exactly the things that I would have expected to hear. But so I don't know. I guess you could hear it. I'm perplexed by what I'm seeing out of Rory. But at this point in time, I think we can just assume Rory's not going to be much of a factor for the rest of this year until he comes out and shows something different.
If you had to pick a lineup of golfers you thought had a chance, you probably wouldn't have taken him, right? This week? Yeah. Not
based on his comments, not based on how he played it in Canada. I mean, missing the cut, fighting the driver. Kind of a, here's the Scott. You've covered athletes. There's certain like the same thing happened to Scotty that happened to Rory at the PGA with the driver. Both drivers failed. Rory decides he's upset about it, won't talk to the media. Scotty's like, yeah, and I knew this was coming. They told me it was close, so I've been working on another driver, so I just put it in play. It's no big deal. It happens all the time. Okay, non-story. Rory doesn't say anything, becomes a big story, right? Like and then he says some of the strangest things. I mean, he said there's two things I like to talk about: golf and me, because I love me and I love golf. And I'm like, who says that? Like, what's just such a weird. I don't know. Like, I don't know how a guy could blow being the darling of the entire golf world to having people. I'm reading comments on social media. They're saying, I'm really trying to like this guy, but this is weird, and I feel the same way. It's strange.
BT, where are we at with the relationship between the PGA Tour and LIV Golf? Is it still very severed? Do they hate each other? Where are we at with that relationship?
It's a really interesting question. I don't have any insider information other than what I've been reading, and they didn't discuss it really much here at the U.S. Open. There was talk about the USGA and whether world ranking points would be given to LIV because the USGA is one of the people on the board of the official world golf rankings. But from one of the latest stories that I read is that the theme has changed a little bit. It was so startling the way they kind of I don't want to say ambush, but a little bit of an ambush, right? Like it's just like all of a sudden some big time players led by Phil Mickelson, who was one of the most popular players of this generation, just up and leave. And then there was this sense that if the PGA Tour doesn't respond in some way, that all of a sudden what was the leader in leading golf tour might just be quickly taken over. And so there's been that whole threat. And now it seems like it's sort of switched. It's like, okay, those players are gone. And outside of Bryson and maybe Brooks a little bit and Rahm certainly, there's the PGA Tour, what Scotty's been doing, what Rory's just did. Like it feels like they have the upper hand now. And it's like, well, the PGA Tour survived it. They survived the ambush. They have continued to build. The popularity for the PGA Tour is actually quite high right now. Ratings are good. Like there's a lot of positive things, and it's kind of like, okay, well, they're going to do their thing. We're going to do our thing. And they got SEG to jump in to be able to put a bunch of money in. And so that money threat sort of isn't there anymore. And it kind of feels like maybe they're further away and they're just going to stay their own separate entities. So the big thing that'll come about is here in the next year, a lot of those people that the players sign those massive contracts, those are coming up for renewal. So Bryson was asked about that, and he said, I'm not gonna say yet, but I know my value, and so we'll see where it goes. And he said, Liv's not going anywhere, and I think they'll see my value, and blah blah blah. So anyway, I don't know if that's a long answer to say I don't know exactly what's going on, but it feels like the tide's changed a little bit from we got to get a deal done because this is imminent threat to the PGA Tour to, you know what, they're just going to be two deals going on from here on out, and everyone's sort of secure in who they are. That's how it feels to me right now.
BT, you're the best, man. We appreciate it. Thanks for slumming it with us as always. And
I've got one question for
okay.
BT.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
BT, I need you to really think through this one.
Here you go, BT.
Tough question.
Uh-oh. Dang it.
Okay. Somebody comes up to you right now, and the course is as it currently is at Oakmont there in Pennsylvania, okay?
Yeah.
And they say, all right, BT, here is $1 million if you shoot a 94 or better. But if you shoot a 95 or worse, we're going to take off both of your pinkies. Do you have the confidence? Do you have the confidence to go shoot a 94 on Oakmont and win $1 million enough to put both your pinkies on?
Current conditions, I mean, maybe not this morning conditions, maybe tomorrow conditions.
Yeah.
And the tips.
You told me to think really hard about this, so here's the first thing that comes to my mind. Did you change the rating for the radio on what I have to give up? I'm just asking. Did you guys already discuss this off the air and it wasn't pinkies?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, but we moved it to pinkies so we could
maybe live with that.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
We needed to be able to put it out on air.
Yes.
But
this conversation has been had. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Let's see. Bob and I played it at 1,000 yards less under not U.S. Open conditions a month ago, and I shot an illegitimate 81, which means it was probably more like an 84 or 5. Wow. I probably, I mean, look, for $1 million, I'd give it a shot.
94, but you lose your pinkies.
But you're losing your pinkies.
Yeah,
I mean, this isn't like you just, ho-hum, I got a 95. I came out of there with no money. You know,
you're going to get your pinkies chopped
I know,
off.
but if this was the off-air conversation, I wouldn't do it. But the on-air conversation, I'd do it.
Oh, it's a man very confident in his golfing
I want
abilities.
somebody to come up with $1 million right now.
Yeah. And Hans and I will find an old rusted saw and
you got $1 million on a table or a rusty saw, and all you got to do is shoot a 94.
You're not going to surgically, give me a clean cut on those.
No. This is this is going to get medieval a little bit.
Full torture. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. 94, BT.
94 would be close. 94 would be close. I don't know. Let's see. Let me see. What's the high score of the day right now?
Well, now plus 14 is the high score of the day. 84.
84. So I'd have Justin Hicks, who is got to be 5 times better than me because he qualified, and I wouldn't even think about it. Shot 84, so I'd only have a 10-shot cushion on Justin Hicks today.
Yep.
Yeah, that's
to lose
tough.
pinkies. You think about it, BT,
you let that marinate for
when
a little
we
bit.
have you on to recap the U.S. Open. I want a solid answer from you.
Thanks, Brian.
I'm gonna just hang on to my pinkies a little more closely for the rest of the day.
All right.
So, thank you.
There
All
he
right.
is.
Good.
The great BT right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Remember, you hear it every Saturday morning. Real Golf Radio with he and Bob Casper. This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
You cover. This is Hans Olsen and Scotty G on 97.5, the Sports Zone.
Hans and Scotty, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Hope you're all having a tremendous day. It is a Wednesday, Hans. You know what that means. It's a Win Ticket Wednesday. Actually, it's a Thursday. What are we giving away today, Lloyd? What did you say?
We got RSL tickets today.
Oh, it's RSL tickets. Sorry.
RSL Ticket Thursday.
It's an RSL Ticket Thursday. I just heard giveaway, and then I'm thinking, okay, well, we do that on Wednesdays. No, we got additional giveaways for you because that's Lloyd. Lloyd wants to take care of you. So call number 12 right now, 801-575-ZONE. That's 801-575-ZONE. You win a 4-pack of tickets. See RSL versus DC United coming up Saturday at America First Field.
All right, I know that this has been delayed, and we should have taken care of it right out of the gates, but they didn't have the green Monster. They got the teal Monster, and that is my favorite flavor. That is the newest, latest, and greatest.
You know what?
And I hand it to you with humility.
I'm going to give that back to you.
No, I owe that to you. You put that in the backpack.
All right.
And you get it on ice because I should give you 2 or 3 of them because that was the worst bet that I've ever lost.
Well,
holy crap, was I wrong?
Look, I mean, it's not like I took the Pacers in that game. I just said the game would be close, but I would have bet everything on the planet that Oklahoma City was going to win that game. I didn't have the Pacers winning. I just thought it'd be a competitive game. Our spread was 9.5. You took the over. I took the under, but still thought Oklahoma City would win. But now the Pacers are up 2-1, Hans.
Yeah, up 2-1. Hey, you want to? This is something that I thought was really interesting. So through the regular season, Oklahoma City had only lost 2 games when leading in the fourth.
Yes.
They are now 1-2 in this series alone.
Yeah.
So just to kind of set the scene for everybody, I think that they were what was their overall regular season? I think they were 62-2 when leading in the fourth.
I believe so, yeah.
Something in that range.
Some crazy number.
Like 62-2 when leading in the fourth quarter. They are now 1-2 when leading in the fourth quarter against the Pacers. That's just shocking. That tells you at no point can you blink against Indiana.
Yeah.
And you would have thought that they'd have learned that in game 1 on their home court in front of their fans when Halliburton hits the heartbreak shot of all heartbreak shots. You'd have thought they'd have learned. You'd have thought they'd learned watching film of Indy and New York coming into this thing where Halliburton hit a couple of heartbreaker shots. You'd have thought that they'd have learned through just the Eastern Conference run that the Pacers went on that at no point can you blink or have a letdown because Indiana is a team-led operation, and they'll come back on you.
Pacers outscored the Thunder 32-18 in the fourth quarter. 32-18. They outscored the Thunder in the fourth quarter. And I'm telling you right now, like, this is a Pacer team. They have no business being up 2-1 against Oklahoma City. They don't. They're not the better team. Oklahoma City is the better team. But this Pacer team, Hans, they're the ones you're going to want next to you at 2 a.m. when you run into a group of dudes outside of a bar and everybody starts talking smack. Like, these are the Pacers. When you're in the foxhole, these are the guys you want next to you.
Yeah.
Because they're going to find a way to get it done. They might scratch, claw, bite, whatever, but they're not going to let you get the best of them.
Well, I wonder what this does to Oklahoma City if they lose this series, because losing to a series and getting punked by a guy named Benedict is going to be a real tough thing to overcome. So anyways, what who got you? Was it Siakam?
Benedict, and his last name starts with an M, and I can't pronounce it.
Benedict.
Yeah.
That's who got you? Benedict? Hey, by the way, my whole thing with Kurt Heelan's looking really good. Pascal Siakam for a Finals MVP.
Yep.
If Indy wins it, I do think it's going to go to Siakam. And again, Halliburton will take 2 steps forward, like he did at the Eastern Conference MVP, and then they'll be like, Pascal Siakam, and then he's like, oh, shoot, not again. Because that was pretty embarrassing.
Yeah, that was.
It was when Carrie Underwood stood up because she thought she was going to win Miss Queen of Everything, but it was actually the country queen of everything that won it. And you know who I'm talking about.
This kiss.
Yeah, that's darn right, man.
All right, Hans and Scotty right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.